Welcome to the Monday Night Live Show. I have with me tonight Nick Brisson with Danger Charters in Key West. And we're going to talk about the things that there are to do in Key West. Key West, I had the chance to visit there in January. Key West is it's an amazing place. It's full of history. It's full of, let's say, some eclectic things. There's a lot of things to go see and do. So we're going to talk with Nick. He's going to tell us a little bit about, from his perspective, of what are the good things to do and see when we've got some time in Key West. So it's good to have you on, Nick.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I appreciate being here, and I'm excited to share with your audience what there is to do and see around Key West. I mean, it's like you said, it's a unique place. It's one of a kind for sure, and it's got a ton of history and a lot of different nooks and crannies that you can explore when you're down here.
Okay, so we'll start with this question. Let's say I'm coming to Key West, and we're not going to put any qualifiers on how I arrive, because Key West, you can drive, you can fly, you can get there on a cruise ship. You can be leaving on a cruise ship, arriving back on a cruise ship. But so I'm going to have some time in Key West, and I'm a first-time visitor. So what are some of your suggestions? What do you think is a good thing to do?
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this before we jumped on live, and you mentioned that you did a cruise ship, and then you were in town, and you did the Conch Tour trolley train, and I was just saying that's one of the great starting places, because it really gives you a great oversight of all the history of Key West. It takes you around the island, shows you all of the different tourist spots, and gives you a little description of each place. And then I think from there, you can always go and definitely stop down by the seaport and hit up Mallory Square for a sunset. I mean, if you haven't seen a Key West sunset, that's an absolute must. From the water is even better if you can get out on the water, get out in front of the crowds and in front of the boats that kind of sometimes obstruct the view when you're on the pier in Mallory Square, and get out on the water for sure. Not only to see the sunset, but we have the only coral reef in North America. So getting out there as well is a great option, getting out to the Key West backcountry. And then we also have an array of really eclectic and world-class restaurants as well. And so I always recommend people to get out there at the restaurant scene and get some fresh seafood. I mean, down here, it's coming right off the docks. Captains are catching it that day, and so yeah, if you're a seafood lover, this is the place to be. And so I think that kind of hits it. Hit some of the historical sites, get out on the water, and then top it off with a nice dinner plate at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We stopped when we were down there. We were coming back from the Butterfly Conservancy toward where we parked. I think it's Duval Street, the one that runs kind of parallel to the yeah. And there was a little French place that did crepes, and we stopped there and we had lunch, because we were there for lunchtime, and it was very nice. They had an upstairs dining room. Of course, my wife travels with her wheelchair, so she wasn't up to walking up the steps, so we ate downstairs. But I was amazed at the variety of things that there were. And I got to put a plug in for if you like butterflies, the Butterfly Conservancy is absolutely amazing. And I do have a video on the channel that goes in, and no audio, just a little music and butterflies flying around. We enjoyed that so much. But so what are some of the specific attractions you'd say you'd put on your list? If you had to list like the top 3 things, we did the Conch train, and now we saw where all these things are. What would you go back to?
Yeah, I think that the history of Key West really starts with shipwrecks and ships. It's a port, so I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to have to do with the water. And for me, the history of Key West really begins with the shipwrecks and the Shipwreck Museum, as well as then continuing on to the more modern time Mel Fisher Museum, where he actually went out and discovered the Etosha that had sunk in about 35 feet of water off of the Marquesas Keys. And so I think those two are really big, Mel Fisher Maritime Museum, and then the Shipwreck Museum. And then while you're down there, right next to the Shipwreck Museum is actually the Key West Aquarium as well. So those, I think, are a nice little triangle of places that you can hit up. They're all in about 5-minute walking distance, right down next to the Custom House as well, right down in the heart of Key West at the seaport. So those three specifically are great. And then we also have like you said, an eclectic history of not only the shipwrecks and the maritime stuff, but also some really great artists and writers. I mean, you have the Hemingway House, which is also really popular. That's a great stop to check out, as well as a bunch of different art galleries. Even if you're not buying, I would recommend strolling down Duval Street and just stopping in and seeing some of the great art that's around here. The Key West Pottery, I think it's just Key West Pottery. Their gallery is really great as well.
Okay, very cool. And then there was somebody's, I forget who it was now. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. But there's somebody had their White House down there.
Yeah, the Harry S. Truman Little White House, that's another fantastic stop. It's in the Truman Annex area, which is a gorgeous walking area. It's really a nice neighborhood that you could just stroll around and see some, again, what's nice about Key West in the historic society that they have down here is a lot of residential houses or houses that look normal are actually very historic, and you'll see a lot of plaques as you're walking around that will give you a paragraph or two about the history of those houses and when they were established, what they were used for. I mean, the Key West oldest house is another great option for this as well, because it will kind of talk about the design of the historical Key West architecture, how they built houses back in the day to combat the heat and the mosquitoes and bugs and hurricanes and all of that. I mean, this back in the day was the Wild West. I mean, it's a beautiful island now, but you have to imagine when you show up with next to nothing, hurricanes with no warning, 85-degree temperatures in the summer, no AC, and there was no mosquito control back then either, so you're dealing with bugs on top of everything else. Yeah, it was quite the thing to live here back in the 1800s and early 1900s. I mean, yeah, I can't really imagine.
Okay, and so one of the things that I'll throw into the mix is the southernmost point in the United States.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good place. When we went by on the Kong train, we had kind of had a narrow window because we got off a cruise ship, drove down, spent the night up the Keys just a little ways because the price is much better than Key West. Key West is a little pricey, especially in January. And then we had to go back and get back to Miami because we were catching a cruise the following day. But one of the things that they also mentioned that I thought was kind of interesting was there was one of the guys was really famous for basically ripping off and causing wrecks, and we saw his house on the Conch train because because they made their living that way, and he had a big high house where you could see out, and they told his story, so that was kind of interesting. And that piece of the history about Key West and the wrecks off on the reef, of course, and then. Everybody got to go out there and plunder all the goodies, which made people. And it was at one point in time they said it was the richest town per capita in the United States, and it was all from collecting money off of what they gathered on the reef. Okay, so let's say let me ask one question because people ask about it. If you had to pick a beach for a beach day in Key West, which beach would you pick?
Well, I would say if you're in Key West, there's really, in my opinion, one option. If you're in Key West, maybe two, but it's really one. if you have the ability to, I'll go through all three of these here. If you have the ability to travel outside of Key West, if you come down in a car or if you're on your way out or on your way in, there's other options. And then if you have the ability to go by boat, you can visit sandbars. So I'll take you through the one in Key West. In Key West, if you're just walking, you don't have a car, or you're just staying for the day, or you want to hit a good beach day, absolutely go to Fort Zachary Taylor. That is the bar none best beach in Key West. That's a real beach. It's the only one that has a decent amount of sand that's not imported or any of those things. It has the most natural beach, I would say, that's enjoyable, that's going to remind you of beaches in Miami or maybe Sanibel Islands or something like that. Maybe not as nice as Sanibel or the west coast of Florida, but it's the best beach that we have. Now, the real gems lie either up the Keys, which is, if you can drive, by a Honda, which is just south of Marathon, which is about the midway point of the Keys. And there, it's a state park, I believe. It's either state or national park, but it's not national. I think it's a state. But at Bahia Honda, that is the best beach in the Keys that you can access by driving. It's got the purest sand. It's the most natural. It doesn't have any rock structures or anything that's been man-made other than the Bahia Honda Bridge. And but as far as the beach goes, it's pristine. It's beautiful sand, and highly recommend Bahia Honda Beach if you're driving down. Now, if you have the ability to go by water, or if you do go out on a charter, for instance, you can access some really premium sandbars that are just pure sand that stretches for a quarter mile, where you can walk for hundreds of yards and really see a lot of the backcountry, as we say, the Key West backcountry, and that's or Woman's Key if you're looking on a map. There's that, or the backcountry towards Snipes Point are some really great sandbars that are off of Key West. So yeah, it's a little bit interesting. I'll admit Key West by foot on the island doesn't have the best beaches in the world, just the way the island is naturally structured and the way that the sand flows around it. But if you can go to the backcountry, Fort Zachary Taylor or Bahia Honda, those would be my recommendations.
Okay, and Fort Zachary Taylor, is that on the conch train where you can get off close, or is that something it's a far?
It's inside of the Truman Annex area. They've actually built out a really nice waterfront structure for tourists that have. They have a new eco discovery center down there as you're walking towards Fort Zachary Taylor. They've really tried to make it accessible for everyone. If you're coming off of the cruise ships and you get off at the Mole Pier, you'll actually drive right past Fort Zachary Taylor. So there's plenty of ways to access it. Okay. It is in the downtown area. So if you're already down there, maybe if you've seen the Harry S. Truman Little White House, it's within a 10 or 15-minute walking distance from there. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Very good. So now let's see. I've been down. Now I'm coming back for the second time, and I've got a little more time, and I've done the tourist things we just talked about. So now let's get out of town a little bit. And what are some of the things to see and do? You keep talking about the backcountry, so I'm assuming there's a way to get there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for the backcountry, I would say that it's really the best option is to get on board a boat, get on board a charter, go out to the Coral Reef as well. If this is your second time and you really want to go for an adventure, then get on board the ferry out to wow, I'm blanking. Sorry?
To the Dry Tortugas?
Yeah, Dry Tortugas. I wanted to say Fort Jefferson, but I don't think that's out there. But yeah, Dry Tortugas is where you want to go. So that would be a second time around trip, because that's really a full day. I mean, that is a couple hours out there on the ferry, a couple hours back. Some people even camp out there. it's something that's worth seeing. That's really pristine environment out there that's not really touched by man much. So you're going to see some fantastic things out there, especially if you're into snorkeling, scuba diving, or fishing. Getting out there is really great. And yeah, speaking of fishing, if you are into the fishing scene, then like I said, hop on board a charter and get out towards the reef. We have some world-class fishing, and a lot of world records have been broken down here. So and if you're not into the reef, can be a little rough. So maybe if you do get a little seasick, or you're not on board with that, then there's still some great fishing in the backcountry where you'll be in flat calm waters in about 6 feet of water. So there's something for everyone. There's plenty of options for everyone, for sure.
Okay. And now I know your company does some charters, and one of the things that I saw when I looked at it, I'll go ahead.
Trying to get it online there. Danger Charter.
Danger Charter. And one of the things that struck me when I looked at your website, and I thought, man, that would be pretty cool, either before or after a cruise. If you're getting on or off the ship in Key West, if you spend the night either the night before or the night after, you guys offer a sunset charter?
Yeah, so we offer a really fantastic, speaking objectively, I would say we offer a really fantastic sunset sail charter. So a little bit about us, we have a fleet of 3 60-foot skipjack, what they're called skipjack schooners. So they were originally used for oyster harvesting. So what it allows us to do is we have really shallow draft on our boats. So that's what allows it. I keep talking about the country. We actually go into the back country. That's what allows us to do it. Our center boards can be raised. So it's not like a typical sailboat that can only go in like 6 feet of water. So we can go in less than 3 feet of water. So even less. I don't want to misspeak, but I'll say 3 to be conservative. So we really can access some really great spots during the daytime. But yeah, during sunset, what's unique about us is we do a 9-bottle wine tasting. So we try to provide people with a really unique experience that they can't get anywhere else. We do like I said, 9-bottle wine tasting, craft beers, spritzers, and bottled water, and plenty of drinks for everyone, even if you don't drink alcohol. And then we pair it with some really great hors d'oeuvres. We go out for around 2 hours, and we sail around for the sunsets. And our company is unique in that we keep the size of our tours smaller. We like to really be personal, but with everyone, we always claim that we learn everyone's name by the end of the trip, and really try to interact with our guests and provide them with a unique experience. You're not, packed onto a large boat where you're just one of the crowd. You're really a guest on our trips.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to find real quickly. I have some. I brought your website up, and I had popped it up. There's a picture. I knew I had seen it. Let me put this up.
Yep. Yeah, that's us. That's our sunset sail. It's called the Wind and Wine, and yeah, it's a really, really fantastic trip. And during the day, it's great as well. We do kayaks, snorkeling, and sailing into the backcountry. Like I said, we're typically sailing in between 6 to 15 feet of water. So the conditions are always fairly calm, if that's a concern for you. And then on the really great days, if you go on our full day sail, we actually do hit some of the sandbars. We go out to Woman Key, and we have some really great trips there as well. You can see pictures of that on our Instagram. And yeah, the kayaking takes you in between the mangroves there. We do some really cool eco excursions, you might call them, where you're learning about the ecology, you're learning about the wildlife, you're learning about how all these systems work, because there's really not much like it in the US. I mean, this is really a unique area, and in addition to the history, but also the environment. Yeah.
Well, like I said, that looks absolutely amazing. I think that would be enjoyable. So let me ask about what kind of challenges, if somebody's got some limited mobility, um, what are the challenges they have, like getting on and off the boat, those kinds of things?
I don't want to speak for other companies, but I'll just speak for my own experience with our company. Typically a lot of these boats are just in general, not even for handicap, but just for the average person, you want to make it as safe and easy for people to get on and off the boat as possible. So a lot of the docks and the boats in general, but specifically for us, the dock is level with the boat. You have a very small gap there. You can easily, we've done it, before, where we've gotten people with handicap and disabilities on and off of our boats, with no trouble. And I would say, is in terms of the boating, it's definitely possible if you go with the right company and you just kind of check it out ahead of time, ask questions. In today's age, I think everyone's trying to accommodate everyone as much as possible. And so I don't really see too many issues with that, especially with some of the larger companies and the larger boats. You'll definitely be able to accommodate handicap individuals. But yeah, in general around the island, there's a lot of accessibility there as well too. All of the laws are really great to if you do any renovations, you have to bring it up to code, and so yeah, I think that it's very accessible for those people. Yeah. A lot of stuff is state run too. So like Fort Zachary Taylor, for instance, that's all state run. So those have to be, as far as I know, I'm not the ADA compliance specialist here, but a lot of them are government and state run attractions down here. There's not too many that are private. So I think a lot in terms of the majority of attractions are accommodatable to the handicap, for sure.
Yeah, I would say in our experience when we were down there, everything was easy to get around.
Mm-hmm.
We really enjoyed it. The Kong train, we were able to work it out to put my wife's wheelchair. Kong train would be more of a challenge for somebody with a scooter, but then if you have a scooter, the only thing you'd miss would be the narration. I didn't see, at least the one we were on didn't have any way that I saw to put a scooter up on it. But
Right.
listen, we had a great time down there. Listen, Nick, I appreciate you being with me. If you'll hang around just a second, let me say goodbye to our audience, and I'll be right back. So listen, there'll be a link up here right by my head to take you to some of the video I shot in Key West. You can see a ride on the Kong train and some of the sights that we got to see while we were doing that. Thanks for watching. We'll see everybody next time.